This was the opening practice, which it's actually a sabas practice. It's a rondo with players dropping out and then back in movement after they've played the pass. But what we did was modify that because we wanted to promote the going back movement, which instead of going back and then in, is more a case of playing the pass, going and then dropping back. And if we look here, we can see this is a good example from Sully. And an example from Ethan. There we go. So we're starting to get those movement patterns. The second practice was more of the same. It was just dressed up in a different way. So two players here playing a 2v1 against this player here and trying to work on that going back where possible. Good example from Lewis here. There we go. So watch Lewis. He's going to play the pass into Zach. He's going to go, and then he's going to come back, and he's generated space. There we go. Good example. We then went on to this practice, although I adapted it because of the numbers. And again, it's the same sort of idea. You've got a 2v1 going on here against this defender, and the same going this way with a 2v1 here. What would I change? It became a little bit artificial in that the defender would just cut off this passing line and would leave the middle and the forward pass open. So I modified it during the practice so that if this happened, then this pass into the middle player was allowed as part of the X number of passes before you could play out. So that just gave it a bit more realism, but it'd be important to incorporate that right from the start next time. Good examples then. Kelly. Here. That's good. He's taking that forwards into a higher context of the game, so that's good. You can take it beyond just the basic practice. Saeed as well. Which actually opens that diagonal. Good to see Yusuf on the ball as well. So this is his 8th session now in futsal. And this was good from an individual development perspective from Amari. So not related to the session plan as a whole, but related to something Amari's working on, which is his movement. And that's something Amari's obviously working on. Here we go. This is good. Practice 4 then, that was the full game. Can we do it in the full game context without any constraints over being locked into thirds? So this is good from Yusuf. So he plays his pass. He's starting to incorporate the idea of this going back into the game. If anything, Yusuf is coming back here. So Sully, there's no need for you to drop back. You can go high here. I think Yusuf recognises that. yeah, he's telling you. If you're here and he's got that long pass on, long parallel. Aside to the session, but important to pick up on, the orange is really static. So we spoke about cutting to try and disrupt the opposition and a player dropping back in to provide the support pass. If you have a look here, you'll see a good example of that from the greens. So looking at them, Isaac, Ethan, Zach before lockdown, yeah, and Lewis all played together when they were sort of 15 years old. So there's a little bit of chemistry in that they know how to play together a little bit more. So they're the greens, constantly moving to try and disrupt the defence and move them about. A lot more fluid. Obviously, we can't just rotate because it's a pretty pattern, though. We're actually looking to play that vertical pass at some point. Lewis goes high, that's good. And arguably that pass from Zach ought to be this parallel, because Lewis is in behind all of the orange defence here. But that's what we're talking about here, guys, about playing your pass and doing something to try and disrupt the opposition. But somebody needs to rotate back in so that we don't just run off and leave the player at the back isolated. What else do I want to clip? This one, we spoke about chemistry. So Zach and Ethan haven't played together for 2 years. It was before the first lockdown in March 2020. So yeah, 2 years ago now. Zach knows this move from the playbook. Ethan knows this move from the playbook. So you put two players together that know the playbook. Really basic corner goal, but they all count. And also pleasing because Isaac knows to go in, play the block, which facilitates that shot. Really, really, really basic corner, but they all count. And Yusuf, we caught up after about futsal specifics. So have a look in the playbook I gave you about defending corners and where you need to be on this, because you need to be in with the other orange players on this. It's really important as well that we consolidate things that we've worked on in previous weeks. So the kick in, it took us 3 goes, but I was really happy. I was really happy for Amari on this one because he persevered and it came off. So we can't just focus on this week's topic, which is going back, and forget everything else that's come before. We have to try and consolidate previous ideas and keep practicing them in the game. The first attempt didn't come off because Amari played it too soon. He needed to wait for Sully to make that run. The second attempt didn't come off due to Zach not knowing the second post run and decision making from Amari as a kicker. But the third attempt, that was really good. That was good from Amari. Really good perseverance to work on that. So good session, guys. The main theme running through it was that going back movement. So some good examples from you. Please try not to forget them as we go forwards in future weeks, because you can do it this week, but the challenge is, can we incorporate it into our game and not forget it? So are we still going to be doing it and incorporating it in 2 or 3 weeks? That's your challenge. The relevant bit in our playbook is here. This is a good example by Adrian here of going back. So that can be called cutting rupture or go to show if you come from a football background. It's a duality. It's a 2-player movement, and it's one that you would use when you're under pressure and you want to generate a little bit of space. So the ball is here. The ball is going to get passed back, first of all, from Adrian to Doug. The important thing to watch, though, is Adrian's movement. So he goes, and then he comes back. Now let's watch the effect on his reference. He makes that movement to go, and his defender follows him, but he comes back to offer. There we go. And what that's done is generate all of this space between Adrian here and the Loughborough player. This is Jan Myveld. So just that simple move, the going back, can be used to generate space when you're under pressure. And that's exactly what Adrian's done for himself here.